Okay, so the last part is just, cleaning this up to smooth it out and add some details with bevel. So we'll start with this since that's the easiest to see that it needs some smoothing. So I'm going to click on Add Modifier and I'll do a search for, you can do a search for subdivision surface. Okay, so you can see now it's starting to smooth that out. Um, I can also, you can see that I can see all of the facets and edges. If I right click and just choose Shade Auto Smooth, that will smooth most of it out. And you can also increase the subdivisions here, um, and that should give you enough to for this to look relatively smooth. So you can see it still needs some editing. So I'm going to hit the Tab key. You can see that I can see the, just like you can with Maya and using the 3 key, I can see the sort of the low res version of this. And so now if I can click on these options here. So if I click on cage, you can see that now it's putting the edge loops on the actual object itself. If I click off of it, you can see it's just more of like hanging outside of it. If I don't want to see the modifier at all, I can turn that off. And then this is will show me the modifier in real time, and then this will render using the modifier. So obviously we want to keep that on. So it's up to you if you want to have the edges basically sitting on top of the smooth surface or outside of the surface. That's really up to you, but now you can basically I can add start selecting edge loops. So if I hold down Option or Alt and make sure that I have edges turned on, there we go. I can now use my S key and I can scale uniformly and just scaling that in just to start to give it a little bit more shape to it overall. Yeah, and then you can go through and shape this out however you need to. I can also select an edge loop of faces by hitting the Option or Alt key, so I can make this bigger or smaller however I need to. So yeah, so basically you can go through and essentially shape this out. I'll go into my front view here. I'm just going to move this down rather than selecting the edge loops, and make sure I have my X-ray on so I can select through the object. Just move those through like that. Okay, so overall you should have something that looks pretty close to, let me turn off the X-ray here, to the reference that you have. So just do the best that you can and make those adjustments. Um, Now you'll see that there's some puckering here on this one, so I'm going to isolate this object. So if I hit the / next to my shift key, I should be able to see the whole object here. Then if I hit tab, select this face here, I can go into face and inset faces, and then that will help with removing any of those puckers that you might see. So it's just basically moving all of those vertices closer to them, adding in another edge loop and just moving all those vertices at the bottom closer to themselves. All right. So to get out of isolating this, I'm going to hit the / again. All right, so the next part is adding some detail, just smoothing out the hilt and also putting some bevels on it. So we're going to add a subdivision surface modifier on this, and then I can just increase, and actually I'll just decrease this to 2, and then I can right click and just say shade smooth or shade auto smooth, it depends. And then I'm going to hit tab to get into edit mode. Make sure I have my edges selected, and then I'm going to hit Option or Alt, and I'm just going to select these outside edges here. And so I'm not selecting the whole thing, I'm just being very careful about which edges I want to be beveled. Same thing on the other side, like that. And then I can go up to edge and bevel edges, and moving my mouse should change it, but if it doesn't, you can just click off of it and you should get this little pop-up menu, and I'll just put 0.05. Okay, so you can see here that it's not beveling very evenly. You can see that the bevel is kind of different. So if I go, let's hit tab and get out of this for a second here, and if I go into looking at my transforms, you can see that I have uneven options or uneven inputs here under my scale. So I'm going to apply my rotation and scale because it's just easy. And actually I'm going to undo that bevel and then hit tab and then go and apply this rotation and scale. So now if I hit tab and I still have those edges selected, I can say bevel edges, and if I put in the width 0.05 or 0.005, you'll see that it'll be much more even across the whole surface here. So that will work in your benefit to apply those transforms when you're using the bevel, because then it's like using the scale inputs to also apply the bevel. All right, and if you're happy with that, you can also apply your mirror. If you can also keep the mirror on it if you want to, so you don't necessarily have to apply it. And you can go into the front view and hit tab, and if I wanted to, I can continue to make edits on this, like if I wanted that to be a little lower, if I wanted to have it have a sharp edge, I can hit Control R and I can just add in another edge loop there, and having those two edge loops closer together will make that like a nice sharp edge there. Okay, and then lastly we've got the blade. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're going to add in a subdivision surface modifier, and in this case, instead of using bevel by hand, I'm just going to bevel the whole thing. There is a bevel modifier. It's much more broad, but it's just something that you can practice with. So I'm going to click on Add Modifier, and you can do a search for bevel, like that. And right now it doesn't seem to be doing much. Like, I definitely want it to have some nice, you know, I want this to be clipping into the hilt very nicely. So I'm just going to move the subdivisions down, and you can see that order of operation can make a difference. So if you find that a particular function modifier isn't working well, if you put the subdivision as last, it's going to use the information of the low poly model first and then apply the bevel to that and then apply the subdivision to that. whereas here it's smoothing it out first and then applying the bevel, which isn't really ideal for in this particular case. All right, so I can increase my subdivisions on this. Generally, it should look pretty decent with just applying that bevel modifier. If I wanted to smooth it out more, I can just choose Shade Auto Smooth, and it should give you a pretty decent result. And it's basically beveling all of the outside edges. You can see the limit is set to angle. If I set the limit to none, it will bevel all of anywhere that I had an edge loop, it's basically going to bevel along there. So, so like I said, it's going to be a much broader kind of stroke of putting the bevel on, whereas going into edit view or edit mode and then applying the bevel will give you more precise application of the bevel with the bevel modifier. It can be like something that you can try to see if that's going to give you the results that you need without having to go through and select a whole bunch of different edges. All right, and then you can keep making your adjustments. So I'm going to go into the front view. I'm hitting the 1 key and turn on my X-ray here. And I'm just going to scale down those vertices. So I'm going to hit S for scale, and I'm going to scale uniformly just so it's clipping into the hilt a little bit nicer. And yeah, and you can go through, if I hit faces on the top here, let's turn that off. There we go. I can move that up and round that top part a little bit more. And you can continue to make adjustments as you see fit. If you find that you want to have a nice sharp edge around get this area, I can always select that edge loop here. Let's hit the 2 key to get the edge loop. And then I can go into edge and bevel. And let's just give it a little bit of a bevel here, like that. And that will sharpen it out a little bit more if you want to go in and add some more details that way. So you can bevel it that way, or you can hit Control R. Hello. Control R. Something's not working. There we go. Control R, and then if I move that closer, you'll see that that will. Control R is being kind of finicky today. All right. And then if I move that a little bit closer, you can see that that is also going to sharpen that edge as well. So, putting those edge loops closer to each other will make a sharper point. If the edge loops are farther apart, then it will be much smoother. All right, so generally you should have something that looks similar to this. Don't forget to name everything. We've got our hilt, our blade, and then we've got our handle, like that. And then the next time we meet, we will be going over just materials and shaders.